Welcome to the Temporal Time Society, Raven.
Thank you, Efra. What the heck?
Bazinga!
They say he's got to go, Godzilla. Oh no, there goes Tokyo, Godzilla.
I could swallow up, bottle up, I'll pull it up, feel like Godzilla. Get out the way, Eminem! This is my video! Gojira, also known as Godzilla, is the most popular piece of Japanese media ever created. Let's just pretend anime is not a thing, okay, for like 20 minutes.
Anime isn't a single thing like Godzilla. Oxford Dictionary states that anime is a style of Japanese film and television animation typically aimed at adults as well as children. Godzilla is a series and a character from that series. This is like saying Godzilla isn't as popular as animation from the West. No, duh, he's not.
Godzilla also has an anime series called Godzilla Singular Point and 3 anime movies. What are you on about?
Godzilla is so popular that a lot of people didn't even know that it originated in Japan.
I have no way of proving this, but I feel like this isn't true. Most Godzilla movies are made in Japan, so it sounds quite unlikely that people would not know that Godzilla is originally Japanese.
Or that it's in the public domain in the United States, since Toho, the company that created Godzilla, never expected the freak lizard to get Marvelized one day. So they didn't renew and manipulate the copyright system like a certain company that does with all their beloved IPs.
Walt Disney?
Breaking news, Mickey Mouse is now public domain. Oh wait, never mind, just Steamboat Willie. Not even that. The name is still claimed by Disney, so the only legal way to name it is Boat Rat Drives Boat. But this free copyright for Godzilla is only in America.
No, Godzilla is not public domain. The original Mickey Mouse just became public domain this year at the age of 96. The Godzilla franchise is celebrating its 70th anniversary this year.
Last time I checked, Toho still owns the copyright to the Godzilla franchise, so it's so stupid to assume that it was in the public domain to begin with.
In Japan, our boy is still in shackles. But even in the United States with freedom, hot dogs, gunslinging, and that one place.
Have you ever been to Ohio, sir?
No.
Japan still tried to sue the red, white, and blue because, well, you miss the shots you don't take Luka Doncic.
Any evidence for this claim? Did that just disappear into thin air in favor of the pseudo-Maxor editing?
I'm not Japanese, and I was born in 2002, the same year Godzilla vs. Mechagodzilla came out.
That isn't Godzilla versus Mechagodzilla, that's Godzilla against Mechagodzilla. The movie Godzilla vs. Mechagodzilla came out in the 1970s, and it was one of the last Showa-era films. Unless you're in your 50s, that movie did not come out when you were born.
Did you happen to pull this from the IMDb School of Movie Research, perchance?
Alongside Mike's new car. Does this have anything to do with Godzilla? No, it doesn't, but I'm keeping it in the video anyway. So yeah, I didn't really know anything about Godzilla for most of my life other than its influence on American culture. I knew more about Reptar and Shelly from Frankenweenie than the real Godzilla. But then in 2014, when I was 12 playing, I don't know, GTA 5?
Oh, my N-word, huh?
The first Americanized version of Godzilla came out. Yes, the first, because 1998 never happened. Jesus Christ.
Even with the joke that the 1998 movie isn't really Godzilla, Legendary Godzilla would still be the third incarnation of Godzilla since there was the Hanna-Barbera cartoon.
Fast forward to now, 2024. Japan has released a new Godzilla film starring Eminem's hit album, Kamikaze.
Zombie brains make for bad sushi.
And in the States, Godzilla is now collaborating with King Kong in what looks to be a brand new Fortnite event. Which isn't that much of a stretch since they were in Call of Duty, for some reason.
Shut up!
I know 2024 just started, and we haven't had a Skipper video in a while since he was rotting away during the holidays.
Okay, but what was the point of bringing this up when the topic is about how Godzilla supposedly doesn't work in America?
Year, new me, alright? We're back. Don't all clap at once. But let's go back to 2014 to examine the playing field and how we got here. Godzilla is super interesting to me. After the 2014 movie, I grew up and went to school and played video games and doodled in math books that cost a lot of money, but I didn't care because look at this drawing. Homie. But then at age 16, I was activated like the Winter Soldier to hate the 9-to-5 Matrix. Look, Mom, being a brain surgeon is cool and whatever, but I want to pursue the arts. AKA the epilogue to what is eventually going to be homelessness. or a bullet to my head. So I did a film study course in high school where the teacher was the head football coach that hated his damn life. So instead of teaching anything, he put on crash course videos from YouTube where Lily Gladstone from Killers of the Flower Moon taught me film history. Thank you, Lily, for sending me down a warpath with Letterboxd. Eventually, I started learning stuff for myself in film history, okay? I was hitting the books. Books being video essays from other idiot film geeks online.
This part of the video just feels weird. You just tell your tragic anime backstory regarding film studies or whatever, and it just fills up the runtime for no reason whatsoever. I get that you wanted to put some of your personality into this, but this ain't it, Chief.
I don't have any nostalgia for the old Godzilla movies. Yeah, I still watched them a bit when I was a kid.
The fuck?
And even rewatched them recently when I got the idea for this video. So no bias. 98% of them suck ass. Godzilla fell into the same trap that all successful franchises eventually fall into. Godzilla's look was more fascinating to shareholders and executives than the original intentions and creativity that made him even exist in the first place. So they spammed out Godzilla films. He's fighting bugs. He's fighting mechanized versions of himself. He's fighting three-headed dragons. He's doing shit like this.
That is not Godzilla doing that action, it's Manila, his adopted son.
Because why the hell not? And some of the films are fun, I'll admit it, but for the most part, a lot of the legacy of Godzilla just reeks of cheaply made cash grabs.
So you say that a lot of the old Godzilla movies have no messaging, but you are showing clips of Godzilla vs. Ghidorah, which has messaging about protecting the environment and fighting pollution. Am I the only one who noticed how showing clips of this is discrepant to his overall point from earlier?
But when Godzilla turned into a cartoon for kids, a lot of adults stopped caring.
What is this shit?
So then the cycle reset, and this time Goji went to America.
Dr. Skipper just skipped over most of Godzilla's history. He skipped the Heisei Millennium series of Godzilla. This is interesting because some of those movies from those series are serious, and they disprove his point that Godzilla is just always goofy. Some of these movies, like Godzilla Returns from the Heisei series, and Godzilla, Mothra, King Ghidorah, Giant Monsters All Out Attack, GMK for short, from the Millennium series, are serious.
Where the same thing happened again. We got a serious Godzilla, then people complained that it was too serious with not enough Godzilla, so the franchise became Looney Tunes. And the sequel somehow had worse human characters, and then people got annoyed with Millie Bobby Brown, the fat kid from Deadpool, and Alfred from Atlanta spilling water on a computer to fry Mechagodzilla's motherboard to save the day.
That's not water, it's alcohol. You literally see him pouring it from a flask.
I gotta die here with you and sober!
American Godzilla as a whole is an oxymoron thing to begin with. A thing made to represent America's atomic bomb on Japan is now being used for American heroism. So because of this, you can't really get that much depth with Godzilla, since he's the protagonist ally to the American military.
Calling Godzilla an ally is misleading, since Godzilla is not teaming up with the United States. He's an animal who's stopping other animals from being in his territory or domain and eating his food, which is radiation.
In other words, he's portrayed to be more of an anti-hero kind of kaiju and not, you know, oxymoronic to the 1954 film like you claim.
The US doesn't have the same history of catastrophe as Japan did with the atomic bomb, and America is also obsessed with patriotism. So instead of making Godzilla an allegory for the consequences of mankind's actions, or have a much larger depth of Godzilla being a force of nature against the United States, he's now instead Superman, where he gets recontextualized to be Superman, which is hilarious when you rewatch 2014's Godzilla with this perspective after watching Japanese Godzilla films. First off, that hydrogen bomb test that destroyed the Lucky Dragon 5, which got the 1954 movie made in the first place, well, now the history has changed, and the hydrogen bomb was used to attack Godzilla on that test drop to protect the greater mankind, and it accidentally made him bigger. And after being threatened by this walking nuke and realizing there's nothing the US could do about it, it's now going to be the savior to America against the Japanese threat that was forced out of hiding by humanity that then attacks Hawaii, where then the Japanese threat gets killed by a walking nuke.
The Mutus in the 2014 movies are not even from Japan. One of them is from Nevada and the other's from the Philippines.
Have you ever watched the film you are talking about right now?
That goes down in a heroic sacrifice, and then he decides he's got one more in him, so he gets up and everyone claps for him as fighter jets fly by, saving the day as he goes back into the water. Take in mind, like, thousands of people have probably died to Godzilla, and by the looks of it, evacuation seems to be terrible.
The Mutos were the ones attacking the civilization first, so it would make sense that people are happy to see them defeated.
It's funny when watching it because at first Godzilla isn't even the main focus of this Godzilla movie. It's this Japanese threat that Walter White is warning everyone about, and then Godzilla only comes on screen to handle business. And when he's attacked by the US military, at first he doesn't even retaliate or go beast mode. This dude is only hyper-focused on destroying this Japanese threat and shares this sparkle with the main character where they save each other. It's quite beautiful actually how much Godzilla cares about the whole world. No, he just cares about the US because when he goes to China, even that shit gets absolutely decimated in his ego fight with the gorilla.
First of all, it was clear in the clips you showed that Godzilla didn't give a shit about the US at all. He only cared about his own domain and that was it. Second of all, you claimed that he did a lot of damage earlier only to then say that he only does damage to China? Was this video script AI generated?
Making Godzilla Superman is strange, and later in the Monsterverse they try to add depth to this. Like, look, he actually killed a bus full of children, and this company called Monarch is really shady with documentation and control.
It's not a company, it's a government agency.
I'm a big box office pessimist, and lately American blockbusters have been safe, generic, and boring, which is no surprise that they've been flopping left and right because people are burnt out of high-budget mediocrity. So to watch a Godzilla movie...
He just showed a clip from the 2016 movie Shin Godzilla, a movie that he does not talk about except for this and some clips later on, because it contradicts his claim that Godzilla is always goofy, and only the newest and the oldest movies are good. But not only that, he showed it while talking about a different movie. How do you do that?
Talk about a mismatch.
With compelling human characters, nuanced discussion with critiques on the Japanese government, while having havoc and consequences that feel impactful, while also having an antagonist that is menacing, threatening, and terrifying.
He did it again! Why is he like this? Oh my god.
This is why I prefer -1 to the original 1954 movie, because -1 is critical to the Japanese government. Godzilla in the film is going against the normal Japanese people. The government is no help and doesn't intervene, and neither does the US, because if they did, the film would be over in like 2 seconds.
Shin Godzilla also addresses the Japanese government inability to respond to problems that harm the Japanese people. The whole movie takes place from the perspective of government workers.
Godzilla 2014 with a budget of $160 million with American Navy and bomb squads and Air Force all helping Godzilla save the day. It's no surprise that the film had an agreement with the Department of Defense where they provided locations, vehicles, and military representation. And while at times the military is incompetent and kind of useless in the film, it's never acknowledged or critiqued with grand messaging. Because like I said, to bite the hand that feeds you is going to drop your budget from $160 million to low $15 million like Godzilla -1.
But in the clips you showed, the United States soldiers were clearly shooting at Godzilla.
Even when the military fires on the Mutos instead of Godzilla, it's not to support Godzilla, but to stop the Mutos. Because Godzilla's seen as a lesser threat at that point because he's not the one who attacked them first.
Godzilla King of the Monsters made way more money than Gojira. So much so that Japan stopped calling him Gojira and took on Godzilla.
This isn't true. Godzilla is still called Gojira in Japan, even in the movie that you like so much, rightfully so, Godzilla -1, they still refer to him as Gojira within the movie.
Godzilla -1.
529 million, 387 million. They're making money, and that's all that matters now. But what is art, and how do we view art? Is a nothing blockbuster funded by the US military better than a $15 million Japanese film with a lot to say because it made more money? Is King of the Monsters better than Gojira since it made more money? We're beginning to look at box office as this risk-reward system, where studios don't see the risk of making something if it can't possibly 10 times its original budget. If Barbie didn't make $1 billion, was it a waste of time? If Oppenheimer didn't almost make $1 billion, was that too a waste of time? And this rubs off how we view movies. If something makes a lot of money, it must be good, and if a movie flops, it must be bad. It's the same as judging a book by its cover. Yes, there's movies that spend way too much money not being creative because they believe they could 10 times their budget by simply existing. But then we get films like Gojira and Godzilla -1, which are real creative works of art that stand for something and matter aside from just money, and they need to be praised. But like how everything works, Godzilla isn't liked because of what it stands for, because what America saw was a cool giant monster that attacked Japan, not an allegory for nuclear war. And what they see now is a Superman figure that could sell toys. Godzilla has become a mascot to make money. It's why I can't enjoy the Looney Tunes version.
Friendly reminder that the goofy Looney Tunes version of Godzilla was started by Japan first, not the United States, so it doesn't mean that Godzilla can't work in the United States because that's the fault of Japan.
ignores how the box office ultimately doesn't matter a lot when it comes to film discussions. A movie can have millions of dollars at the box office and people might not like it, like how you demonstrated with talking about the MonsterVerse movies, or at least your opinion of them. This also ignores how art is subjective and what would be considered art ultimately depends on the person.
It's why Godzilla can't work in America. But when it works in Japan, it works. And it works well. But if there's anything I can hope to get across with this video, it's to research the things you watch.
Something that you clearly are not doing. Sorry, Final Thoughts, this video doesn't seem to be made with knowing the history of Godzilla and really ignores most of the history of Godzilla itself. And that's really weird.
Remember, folks, follow your own advice to your audience. The Maxor style editing for this is way too much and it distracts from the actual points presented, and a lot of the clips presented completely contradict some of the points he made. Here's a lesson to those watching at home. Don't let funny memes and fancy wording sway you to one side. Listen, analyze, think, and see if it's worthy of any discussion. We need to learn how to think for ourselves and not let video essayists think for us.